nobody there hates themselves. Like nobody.
Specifically in Pennsylvania.
Few people are different there, because we're not quite New England. We're not quite the South. But I fear a really young child, and I just didn't really understand that about myself until I went to college. Why the hell is this looking?
Hi, I'm Lexi Brown. I'm a photographer, but I mostly consider myself an artist, largely, or more broadly. I've always been interested in poetry and photography and painting. I'm also from Pennsylvania, which I think is really important to my identity, because I tend to think that people hate themselves there and hate expressing their emotions. So, kind of getting out of Pennsylvania and working out of Atlanta, where people are very vocal about their concerns and people care a lot about what's going on in the world and representing different cultures and identities, it's kind of influenced and empowered me to share my own. When I was exploring my identity as a photographer, I was taking lots of pictures of nature and observational photos of people, and I had been doing that for years and just not really showing anybody or talking to anybody about those things because there was something inside of me that felt like it wasn't important because anybody could do that. I felt for a while that only really dramatic and really big, extravagant things like this series were kind of worthy of being shown. So I decided to explore my keen eye for nature, texture, human bodies, and form in a different way that was kind of more gentle and maybe more accurate to how I felt inside as a rounded individual. Whereas this was a charged story I chose to chase. I believe that contour, which kind of exists in two different forms, a cyanotype booklet, which I plan on expanding, and a small photo book.
So I was working on these cyanotypes, like I said, literally in my closet with like doors closed, towels over my windows so it didn't expose the chemicals before they were ready, a towel on my floor, and then I was taking them out in the sun and tracking when like peak sunlight was for the day, pressing it on a photo frame, laying bricks like underneath it and taping it down, and just running back and forth inside and outside all day for like a week straight. And it's also made me feel like this is way less significant and substantial. This almost feels plastic to me, but in a way that isn't intentional and isn't desirable, especially for the context of this project. This is refined, and I might have mentioned this earlier. It would look great in a library, or these might look great on somebody's wall, but I don't think it captures the essence of my message.
It kind of channels my, I guess, keen eye for nature, my appeal towards things that are more gentle, soft, obscure, things that aren't so much directly handed to you and you have to figure out what they mean for yourself. The non-binary identity is also very important to me. I kind of identify as a woman, but also a non-binary person at the same time, because I understand that I'm female presenting and that's how I'm interpreted by the world. But I kind of wanted to make a series where I broke that down a little bit. I wanted to show that people could and should just be perceived as human beings, and that we are all one with nature, that we should be able to exist just simply how we are. I paired images of the human body with images of nature, like tree bark with like bumps on people's skin, or the shape of a naked female-bodied person compared to a flower. I just really wanted to highlight the fact that you can't always tell what you're looking at, but also all of these things are beautiful. That something else that I've noticed is that people will look at my series and they think that every subject is female bodied for some reason because they're paired with just pretty things in nature. When some of the people that I subject nude were like physically or of the male sex. So I don't always correct people, but it always makes me laugh a little bit because I'm like, you are not fully understanding my work and you are proving my point at the same time by your misunderstanding. It was super important to me to pick out non binary bodies specifically because this was an exercise in representation and emphasizing. Um, like I've mentioned, it was largely about non binary erasure. I feel like it was a key component that the actual people I was photographing all identified as non binary. Um, I like looking at things like really close up pictures of tree bark or moss or dirt in the ground because I feel like they're things that people would very easily overlook. And that is when I came up with the idea to compare nature, and specifically very textured nature, with the human body and non binary bodies, because non binary bodies are often overlooked. This might be a crazy take, but I kind of feel like we should exist in a world where somebody could change if they need to, and they don't have to feel embarrassed. They don't have to feel embarrassed about their period. They don't have to be embarrassed about being sweaty, so on and so forth. But also, they don't need to feel ashamed about their body. They should be able to exist freely in their own body and identify the way they feel, however they want, express themselves however they want, without being tied to other people's misperceptions and other people's judgment and hatred. I think this project has helped me realize that non binary people are valid, which kind of sounds crazy coming from somebody who identifies as non binary. But in my lived experience, it's happened multiple times where I've been made fun of for asking to be referred to by they, them pronouns. It's happened like when there was a period of my life where I did just use they, them pronouns and not she, they pronouns. People just would not respect that at all. And I also felt a lot of shame because I wasn't doing anything about it. Because I look how I look, and like, well, it may be very obvious that I'm an artist or like a little weird or something. I'm still very, very clearly the average person, a woman. And I didn't want to go through any kind of surgery or hormone treatment to change any of that. And for a long time, I felt that meant that I was not valid as a non binary person. I think making contour and forcibly interacting with other non binary folk, but also just other trans folk, it's made me realize that you can be valid no matter what your body looks like. It doesn't really matter. I think what matters is who you are as a person and how you feel. But other beings, I think, should respect that too. That being said, I'd also really like to expand contour because I understand that most of the people that I subject were female bodied. Most of them were white. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's very encompassing of the non-binary experience. I think it's more of an amplification of my own experience. So I do think that it's very important for me to make this work bigger and broader and more inclusive. But I'd also like to photograph different types of bodies and body shapes and maybe focus less so on things that can be inherently shocking or inherently perceived as sexual.
I also feel like there's a part of me that this might sound a little bit conceited, but I think there's something a little bit special about having a unique identity, period, because it kind of shows that this person has gone through something and thought about their own existence very deeply. Like, knowing who you are and understanding your identity is just an essential element of life. And I think I kind of wanted to compare the two, like how important your own expression is to just the world as we see it, but also I just really wanted to respect and draw attention to the fact that non-binary bodies exist because I feel like they're erased and hidden a lot. And thirdly, I wanted to say that these people maybe are not people that you are very familiar with or you are very comfortable with as a viewer, but they are humans just like anybody else. kind of talking to myself anyway.